Welcome to NarrativeNook Audiotales, where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
They didn't see it coming. So many challenges were lying in wait for them. Molly was inherently naive, unsure if she's cut out for this. Molly had just started working at the company when she overheard two receptionists badmouthing her. "I thought she was someone special. Wasn't she the one who got her uncle's family killed? You know she's an ice queen, yet you're blabbering away here. You sure you'll still have your job after this? Oh, the way you're talking sounds like I'm dying to work for her." The two receptionists were sarcastic because they had tried to get close to Harry, Molly's cousin, hoping to get some benefits. Little did they know, Molly would throw a wrench in their plans. They didn't get anything. Instead, they got played by Harry. Harry is now in jail, and his parents and sister reportedly committed suicide. Molly didn't want to pick a fight with them, but hearing them talk like this, she felt that if she kept silent, she would only become more cowardly. She remembered Arabella's strict management style in the company and began to emulate her. "You guys don't want to work here? Great, I don't want to hire you. Go settle your wages at the finance department within half an hour, then get out. On what grounds are you firing us?" One receptionist flared up, slamming the table. "Also, according to labor law, if you fire us, you must pay compensation. You want to talk labor law with me?" Molly found it amusing. Doesn't the labor law also say that if an employee is dismissed for fault, the company doesn't have to pay any compensation? You guys are always late and leave early, break company rules. If anything, I should be asking you for compensation, right? The two receptionists were so furious at her sudden aggressive stance that they were left speechless. "Molly, I'm giving you half an hour. If you're still here after that, I'll have security throw you out." "Molly, if your father were still around, he'd regret having a useless child like you running the company." Molly was heading for the elevator, but hearing this, she paused, laughing coldly. "If my father could see me handling things like this, he'd say I'm too lenient. I wanted to let you guys off, but since you don't want that, I'll have someone thoroughly investigate your misconduct in the company and demand compensation." One of the receptionists almost suffocated with anger. Molly, in her high heels, walked into the elevator. The two receptionists watched the elevator doors close, still spitting venom about her, all of which was seen by Hans. Molly pressed the elevator button and headed straight for the top floor. As soon as she got out of the elevator, she announced a group meeting that all shareholders and the chairman must attend. Under normal circumstances, no one would show up if Molly called for a group meeting. But because today's topic was about whether she would give up the group's management rights, all shareholders and the chairman attended. Molly returned to her office to find documents ready on her desk, only lacking her signature. This was really too much. "President Molly, you're finally here." Molly's assistant had been hiding in the corner for a while, only daring to show her face when she saw Molly. "You have no idea how terrifying they were just now, and I didn't dare to come out." Sigh, she really was the most pitiful assistant in history. Other executives' assistants usually had some sort of authority, but she was looked down upon and even threatened with dismissal. Being an intern assistant was too hard. "They didn't give you a hard time, did they?" Molly asked softly. "No." Despite the fact that she had been hassled, warned, and even threatened, the assistant didn't let on, knowing Molly already had enough on her plate. "So, what's next, boss?" she asked. "Come with me to the meeting room," Molly said, picking up the files they had prepared and headed straight for the meeting room. The assistant couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about Molly today. She seemed more decisive, more determined. Novel drama. "Oh, and Molly, you passed out at the competition today. Someone tried to poison you. You're okay, right?" the assistant asked nervously. "I'm fine," Molly assured her. "Thank God." The assistant sighed in relief. Then she remembered, "You were amazing at the competition today. Your designs are out of this world." Everyone was blown away. "You know, our stock price shot up because of this competition. The old board members are probably scared of your growing influence and want to kick you out. I always thought a capable person like you should be the one running the company. Molly was touched by the assistant's loyalty. Then she remembered something. Check if the two receptionists downstairs are breaking any company rules. Got it, boss. No need to check. They are always trying to seduce Harry, inflating expenses, coming late and leaving early, yet they still get perfect attendance. I've had it with them. The assistant blurted out. Are you going to fire them? Yep, and claim damages while we're at it. The assistant was surprised at Molly's newfound resolve. I'll handle it. They'll regret it. Once they arrived at the meeting room, the assistant opened the door for Molly, immediately drawing sarcastic comments from the old board members. So, now that you're CEO, you think you're too good to open doors? The assistant was flustered. It was her idea to open the door for Molly, not Molly's. The old board members were cunning and always looking for ways to embarrass Molly. You come third in some competition and think you're hot stuff? Do you want to take over the company? Dream on. One of them banged on the table. Molly looked around at the shareholders and directors, finally resting her gaze on Lewis. She smirked. Well, I'd like to ask, what awards have you won in your 20 years in this industry? Third place in an international fashion design competition. Anyone here ever won that? The room fell silent. The assistant's heart was pounding. Molly had taken control of the room just by stepping in. All we need to know is how to run a business. Lewis sneered. Talking to me about running a business? All right. Who here could have made the stock price soar like it did today before the competition? Molly asked, her voice icy. Anyone? No. Lewis, you're only benefiting from the competition. That's right. But you guys couldn't benefit from it. Molly slammed the trophy onto the table. The room fell silent again, and everyone too pissed off to speak. Molly pulled out the papers the board had prepared beforehand and slapped them onto the table. These papers are a mess. The sentences don't even make sense. This is elementary school level. Do you dare compete with me for control of the company? My grandfather built this company from scratch. What right do you have to control it? Lewis was speechless, and then Merlin jumped in. In conclusion, we have the right to dismiss you. Right, as CEO, I don't have the right to dismiss any of you. I can only accept being dismissed. But today, I acquired shares. Every shareholder and board member was gobsmacked, and they all turned to look at her. Everyone knew that Molly's uncle had snatched the shares from Molly and her mother, and then her uncle, his wife, and Myra all passed away. The case was still under investigation, so the shares never got to Molly. However, just recently Harry, the son of Molly's uncle, had voluntarily given his shares to Molly to lighten his sentence. Moreover, the fact that Molly's uncle had unlawfully possessed their shares was cleared up, and now the shares have been transferred to Molly according to procedure. In other words, Molly was now the biggest shareholder in the group. She said, with my current position, I could sack any of you. President Merlin was so angry he threw his ID badge on the conference table. Fine, I quit. Let's see if the company can survive without me. No biggie. President Lewis also threw down his badge, clearly opposing Molly. A little assistant couldn't help worrying for Molly. These two presidents were too much, and they were obviously trying to embarrass Molly. However, Molly sat at the head of the conference table as if she had foreseen this and coldly chuckled. Anyone else want to leave? As soon as she said this, the room fell silent again. That's it? Just these two? Molly found it amusing. Weren't the entire board trying to oust her? How come only two dared to stand up? Where were the others? Had they all chickened out? She said, I've already hired someone from abroad. Any one of your positions can be replaced. Upon hearing this, President J angrily slammed the table. Molly, are you trying to replace all of us? Molly, I didn't say that. I just found some extra talents, just in case. President J pointed at her angrily. I've worked with your father for many years. If he knew. Before he could finish, Molly cut him off. If he knew you betrayed him right after he died, supported my uncle to take his position, tried to reduce our shares, bullied his wife and daughter. Do you think my father would let you sit here? President J didn't expect her to be a completely different person after she returned from the competition. Molly angrily slammed the table. None of you are worthy to talk about your friendship with my father. The meeting room fell silent again. The assistant was dumbfounded, and she hadn't expected Molly to be so powerful today. At that moment, an employee knocked on the meeting room door and entered. Sorry to interrupt, President Molly. Mr. Collins from Collins Fashion is waiting for you in the lounge. He said that the cooperation discussion isn't finished and was wondering how much longer you'd be. Collins Fashion? Hans? Everyone was surprised. Such an important figure. Why would he negotiate with the small group? No wonder Molly was so confident. Turned out she had a connection with Collins Fashion. She had the support of Collins Fashion. Molly knew Hans was there to back her up, so she stood up and said, Sorry guys, I've got stuff to deal with. If anyone wants to quit, you better hand in your resignation today. After today, if anyone breaks the rules or acts weird, I'll hold you accountable and demand compensation. Meeting over. This chick. She's a real pain in the ass. President Lewis was so irritated he could hardly breathe. His secretary quickly stepped in to give him a chest massage. This is too much. I've slaved away for 12 years in this company, and she doesn't respect me at all. President Merlin grumbled to the other chairman, and he didn't expect this girl to not only refuse to keep him on board but even kicked him out. She's now the major shareholder, and she's got the backing of Collins Fashion. Another chairman sighed, having a little girl leading the company just doesn't sit right with me. Yeah, previously, when her uncle was in charge, although he didn't make any big strides, at least he's a middle-aged man, not like a little girl. According to the rules, when a new president takes office, there's supposed to be a celebration party and everyone has to attend. Someone brought up this issue, and many of the chairmen felt a headache coming on. They had already rejected Molly taking over the company, and now they needed to throw a party to welcome her. What a drag. Molly went to the lounge and asked someone to pour coffee for Hans. Once they were alone, she broke into a big smile. Hans, you came to back me up, didn't you? Yeah, nobody's giving you a hard time, right? Hans noticed she seemed fine and didn't seem hurt. During my time at Bella Management, I picked up her leadership style. Today, I managed to pull through, not sure what troubles are coming my way next. As Molly was saying this, someone knocked on the door. It was an assistant carrying 2 cups of coffee. Mr. Collins, your coffee. President Molly, yours. After setting down the coffee, the assistant reminded her in a low voice, President Molly, there's a celebration party tonight to mark your official takeover of the company. It's customary for the board of directors to decide the time and place. Please be sure to attend. What? A celebration party? Whose bright idea was that? Molly was already fed up with those old directors. Before she could complain, the assistant told her it was her grandfather's idea, so Molly had to swallow her complaints. So what am I supposed to do at this celebration party tonight? Molly had no clue. The assistant was equally inexperienced. She just started her internship at the company, and her first task was to assist Molly. When I left the meeting room earlier, I heard one of the chairmen saying. The assistant stopped, looking at Hans, unsure whether to share this information with an outsider. Molly caught her drift and generously said, No problem, go ahead. Hans is a friend. Hearing this, the assistant spilled the beans. One of the chairmen said he wants to see what kind of people you can invite tonight. After asking around, I found out that tonight's event isn't just a celebration. It's also a test of your connections as the new CEO. Basically, they want to see what benefits you can bring to the company after taking over. Usually, the bosses of companies who have a good relationship with you would attend your celebration party. As soon as Molly heard this, she knew she was in trouble. She didn't have any connections. How could she possibly invite influential people to support her? I was actually quite worried, but then you said Mr. Collins is our friend, and I felt relieved. The assistant let out a sigh of relief and relaxed. Mr. Collins has a huge influence. Who in Solterra can compare to him? Molly glanced at Hans, and there's no way he would attend such a boring party, right? Besides, Hans had already helped her so much that she didn't want to impose on him again. The assistant continued, also, during the live broadcast, that foreign contestant Isabella mentioned you're good friends with the famous designer Queen Abby. Is that true? If Queen Abby could come, those old directors and shareholders would definitely see you in a new light. Molly was even more troubled. Queen Abby is currently in Dawnstar. She might not have returned to the country yet. Even if she did, she wouldn't want to be a bother to Bella. She can't be bothering people over trivial stuff, right? What? The assistant seemed a bit disappointed but quickly perked up. We have Mr. Collins, that's more than enough. Just not sure if Mr. Collins is free tonight. Molly shot Hans another glance, only to see him nod. Sure, what time tonight you tell me? Hans. Molly couldn't believe her ears. Hans actually agreed? Why would he attend such a dull mini-celebration? It must be because of Bella. Molly felt incredibly touched but also a bit guilty, as if she was taking advantage of her friendship with Bella, but she swore she had no intention of using Bella. Great. The assistant began, then remembered something. Oh, and President Molly, you'll need to wear an evening gown tonight and make nice with those old board members. Make nice? Molly hadn't expected such a straightforward comment from the assistant. All right, got it. Do you need me to prepare your gown? Molly, no need. I've recently designed a set. It should be good to wear. All right, I'll be off then. The assistant tiptoed out, closing the door behind her. Molly couldn't help but bow deeply to Hans. Thank you, Hans. I know you're busy. Thank you for being willing to attend such a boring celebration. No need to be so formal. Hans's gaze softened. I actually came over to discuss a collaboration. Collaboration? Molly's eyes lit up, and she couldn't believe Hans was interested in her small corporation. But really? This small corporation didn't have much to show for. You placed third in the international competition, and I think we can collaborate on launching a new product. Hans voiced his thoughts. Molly nodded enthusiastically. All right, let's do as you say. Thank you, Hans. Molly knew it was all because of Bella that Hans would give her such an opportunity. You're being too formal again. Hans stood up, and Molly hurriedly escorted him out of the office. He said, You're just starting to run the corporation. If there's anything you don't understand, you can come to me. Molly looked at his profile and couldn't help saying, Hans, you're truly a great guy. You're really good at laying it on thick. Hans said for the umpteenth time today. No, that ain't flattery, mate. I genuinely think you're rad. Molly was saying that when someone passed by. She stopped talking and escorted Hans to the company's entrance, expressing deep gratitude towards him. Once Hans was gone, Molly called Arabella. Bella, I've got a shindig tonight. You reckon this dress suits the occasion? What kind of party? Not knowing what the occasion was, she wasn't sure if the dress would be appropriate. Molly explained, My grandpa set it up before he passed. Whenever there's a new management team, the old board members and shareholders throw a welcome bash. Getting the picture, Arabella said promptly, In that case, the dress is spot on. Bella, I got to thank you, Molly couldn't resist saying. If it wasn't for you, Hans wouldn't have brought me back home, wouldn't have stood up for me when those old farts on the board gave me a hard time. And he's even willing to attend tonight's party. You don't know how much that means. It's basically a chance for the new CEO to show off their connections. This was really surprising. Thank goodness Hans agreed to go. Otherwise, she would be looked down on by those old geezers again. After hearing her out, Arabella replied gently, I'll have Jamie represent QY tonight. I've got some stuff to take care of. Molly exclaimed, What? No, I mean. I know, Arabella chuckled, he'll discuss a possible collaboration with you. Another collaboration? Molly was at a loss for words, then filled with gratitude. Bella, how is your family so nice? Hans also wants to collaborate. I know my own capabilities. Our small company doesn't have much to offer you guys. It must be because of their friendship that Hans and Bella were willing to help her. You earned your 3rd place. That's a great achievement, Arabella replied with a smile. Anyway, I've got things to do. If you need help tonight, just turn to Hans. Molly responded, all right. After hanging up, Arabella turned to the man beside her. Even though she and Romeo had safely returned, some forces had infiltrated Solterra, searching for her whereabouts. She didn't want to put Molly in danger, so she couldn't show up tonight. At 8 o'clock that evening, the celebration was held on the top floor of the Summerfield Hotel. Many shareholders and board members arrived early, eager to see Molly squirm. They gossiped, the girl's just too immature, has no respect for time. Look at all these board members and shareholders waiting for her. She thinks she's something else now that she's CEO. Exactly, youngsters these days just don't get it. No matter how high and mighty she is, without anyone backing her, where's the dignity? Look at the night view of Summerfield, and it's gorgeous. Only those at the top can appreciate this unique beauty. Just then, someone announced, President Molly is here. Everyone turned to look at her. Molly was wearing a color-blocked strapless dress. One side was an extreme black, giving a relaxed vibe, and the other was peach pink, giving a girly charm. The clash of the two styles was stunning. She looked stunning when she dressed up, and she had a great aura about her. Her long hair, simply styled, was eye-catching. However, she didn't bring any guests with her. At this point, several directors started to laugh, some even stepped forward to mock her. President Molly, what's up with the solo act? No friends to tag along. An older woman feigned concern. If you don't have any connections, you can tell me. I know a guy who runs a pretty famous clothing company. He could help you out. When the woman noticed that Molly's chest was bigger than hers, she was immediately filled with resentment and jealousy. President Bill, why the need to tease? President Molly just took over the company, she can't possibly have that many friends. Before she could finish, a voice cut her off. Sorry, I'm late. A young man in a suit came forward, extending his hand. President Molly, congratulations on taking over the Cooper Group. I'm sure it will become even more powerful under your leadership. Mr. Jamie? Molly hadn't expected Jamie, the stand-in CEO of QY, to actually show up. Grateful, she shook his hand. I'm really glad you could make it to our celebration today. No kidding, I heard earlier that there is a famous clothing company that could help you out. Which one is it? Jamie turned his gaze to the mocking President Bill. President Bill was speechless. This was Jamie, the CEO of QY. Everyone knew that Queen Abby rarely appeared in the company, and that Jamie was in charge of the day-to-day operations. She did not expect him to appear in person, and even stand up for Molly. Her friend's company was just a small company, and she mentioned it to humiliate Molly. She didn't expect Jamie to bring it up. President Bill, Mr. Jamie is asking you which company? Molly confidently asked, looking at President Bill with interest. President Bill quickly backed down. I was just saying. Her friend's company was not even worth mentioning. She would never dare to be arrogant in front of Jamie. That's great, it's an honor for the Cooper Group to work with QY. Molly shook his hand again, expressing her gratitude. The other directors and shareholders were stunned. They couldn't believe that Molly managed to invite someone like Jamie. Everyone knew QY's status in the fashion world. Just then, another man came over, his eyes falling on Molly and Jamie's hands. Is that Hans from Collins Fashion? He's here too. At the board meeting this afternoon, they were planning to fire Molly, but he conveniently showed up and expressed interest in working with the Cooper Group. He even came to support Molly at tonight's welcome party. He seems to be very interested in what's going on with Molly. Is he into Molly? No way. What's so special about Molly that he would be interested in her? But Hans isn't the type to stick his nose in other people's business. If he's not into Molly, did he see something in her talent? Talent? That could be it. Molly. This time, Hans didn't address her with the formal title President Molly, like Jamie from QY did. He just used her first name, suggesting they were more than just professional acquaintances. Molly turned around, and upon seeing Hans, her face lit up with a radiant smile. She walked towards Hans cheerfully, and when she saw him extend his hand, she willingly shook it, whispering, "Hans." Hans' gaze softened a bit. "I hope I'm not late." "Nope, you're early." Molly guided him forward. "There's some red wine up front that you might like. I'll pour you a glass." Jamie, on the side, was a bit puzzled. Was it just him, or did Hans throw him a slightly hostile look earlier? Was it all in his head? For some reason, this hostility felt oddly familiar, like the way Romeo used to look at him. Nobody expected Molly to invite not only Jamie, the CEO of QY, but also Hans. Everyone was taken aback. Molly handed a glass of wine to Hans. "Hans, this one's for you. Girls shouldn't drink so much. Hans, you've helped me so much. I insist on toasting to you." Just as Hans was about to suggest she only needed to take a little sip, Molly had already downed the entire glass. She even smiled at him afterwards, her smile innocent and pure. She was already quite adorable, and now in her evening dress, she looked even more charming and sweet. Such a considerate guy, this Hans. One of the chairmen walked over to them with a big smile on his face. "You hardly ever show up to other corporations' functions, but for President Molly, you made an exception." "Exactly," another chairman joined in. "You didn't even attend the 70th birthday banquet of the CEO of the Stellar Group." Upon hearing this, Molly immediately turned to Hans in disbelief. Molly is different from others. Hans' response left the two chairmen stunned, then they burst into laughter. "Since Hans thinks so highly of our President Molly, we hope you'll give her a hand as she takes on her new role." "Yeah, President Molly doesn't have a lot of experience. If you could cooperate more with our group." Upon hearing this, Molly immediately cut them off. "Let's not talk about work today. Hans, let's go over there." These two chairmen were really annoying. "Hey, I heard that Hans is here at the Cooper Group today for some sort of partnership discussion. Any idea what that's about, or how it's going?" "Yeah, I'm curious about what the first partnership President Molly will bring to us after taking office will be." "You guys ask too much." Hans avoided a direct answer, and instead said casually, "As for the specifics of the partnership, I'll discuss it with Molly in detail when the time comes. And you guys don't need to worry too much about it," Molly added. A couple of board members were pissed off and found a reason to bail. "Hans, I owe you one." Molly was taken aback by Hans' special care for her, even helping her deal with the hassle. "You're new to the company, and there's a lot of stuff and people you need to get used to." Hans barely finished his sentence when his phone started buzzing. "Excuse me for a sec." "Go ahead, Hans." Seeing him take the call and head off elsewhere, presumably for work-related stuff, Molly didn't interrupt. She accidentally spotted QY's CEO, Jamie, swarmed by a bunch of people, so she decided to step in. "Guys, lay off Mr. Jamie for today, let's not talk shop." Molly fended off some overzealous chairpersons and shareholders who were eager to brown nose, shielding Jamie behind her. "If there's anything about cooperation, Mr. Jamie will talk to me. You guys don't need to bother." "Molly, I have something else to discuss with Mr. Jamie." "You guys can schedule another time. Mr. Jamie is here for me today. At my celebration, I don't want to hear anything related to work." Someone said, "I just proposed a suggestion to Mr. Jamie, but he hasn't responded yet." If he hasn't responded today, please give Mr. Jamie some personal space. After shooing these people away, Molly apologized to Jamie. "I'm sorry, my people didn't get the memo and are always looking for a free ride. Mr. Jamie, don't worry about it, just say no if you want to. I'll school them to behave better." "I understand your predicament, President Molly. It's okay, thanks for bailing me out." Jamie was not only a CEO, but also a PR whiz, handling the situation earlier with ease, but being shielded by a young girl made him feel somewhat different. "Sorry for this, Mr. Jamie," Molly apologized with a smile. "As you can see, I'm new on the job, inexperienced and unseasoned, so many people don't respect me." "Take it slow," Jamie encouraged Molly, standing in front of him. "When I first managed QY, I also started from scratch. I've seen your competition. You're very talented, creative, and hardworking. I believe you can make it in the design industry. Thank you, Mr. Jamie. Molly was touched. I'm not just making small talk. I really think you can do it. Jamie patted her shoulder encouragingly. Keep going, you'll do great. Hans was dealing with work stuff in the distance, and he saw the two of them laughing and talking. Jamie even patted Molly's shoulder. Boss, are you listening? Boss. Julian, on the other end of the phone, thought there was a bad connection, since given his boss' attitude towards work, he wouldn't be distracted. Continue. Boss, are you feeling down? Julian seemed to sense a hint of unhappiness in Hans' tone, but he couldn't possibly be unable to control his emotions, could he? Was he overthinking? But why did he feel that the boss' behavior today was a bit off? An assistant ran over and said something to Molly. Molly nodded, then said to Jamie, the ceremony is starting. First up, President J, who disliked Molly the most, went on stage. He hypocritically welcomed Molly on behalf of the entire board, then subtly issued some warnings, implying that the entire company's staff was watching her performance, hoping she would do well and not disappoint everyone. Don't mind him. Jamie stood next to Molly, their silhouettes looking particularly harmonious. I don't give a hoot about him. Molly had long been fed up with this director. Today in the meeting room, he embarrassed her in front of everyone. He obviously disliked her, but now he was saying these welcoming words. He was such a hypocrite. Hans observed their interaction, and with a bit of annoyance in his voice, said over the phone, you need to find some time to get your act together. It took forever to report these minor issues, and he had to listen to his opinion on every single one. Julian was a bit confused. Was his boss dissatisfied with his work? But these were significant issues, and he had to hear his boss' feedback before he dared to handle them. What was up with the boss today? He seemed seriously bummed out. After President J finished his speech, it was the company's second-largest shareholder to take the stage. He also paid some lip service, but his words were laced with stings. Molly was left speechless. Then, the lights at the entire venue dimmed, and brilliant fireworks filled the night sky. Watching the alternating lights and shadows on the harmonious silhouettes of the two, Hans could no longer hold back. He told the person on the phone, let's call it a day. You handle the rest. Boss. Julian's hand not quite caught on when he heard the busy tone at the other end. Hans pocketed his phone and walked towards the two he had left before. As he got closer, he noticed that only Jamie was alone. Where's Molly? Hans asked with a hint of gloom in his voice. Jamie seemed puzzled. She went to the restroom. The sound of the fireworks was too loud, and it was dark. Hans couldn't find that figure. He waited around until the fireworks show ended, and the lights came back on, but Molly had not returned. So, Hans made his way through the crowd towards the restroom. Hans. At that moment, a woman tried to flirt with him, but he dodged her. This woman was a minor shareholder of the Cooper Group, and she had taken a liking to Hans from the moment he made his appearance tonight. Hi Hans, I'm Joanna, a shareholder of the Cooper Group. I really like you. It was love at first sight. Do you have a girlfriend? If not, do you think I could be your girl? At 24, Joanna considered herself young and attractive, and she spoke with confidence. But Hans simply said, I already have one. Without giving her a second glance, he headed towards the restroom. Joanna stood still, in disbelief. Hadn't the rumor been that Hans was single, a cold-hearted workaholic? When did he get a girlfriend? Who was she? How did she win him over? Why hadn't there been any news? Just as Hans reached the restroom, a lady came out. He politely asked, Excuse me, is there anyone else inside? The woman looked confused at his question, and after a moment, she blushed and replied, No, it was just me. Hans didn't understand why she was blushing. He took out his phone to call Molly, but her phone was off. He planned to check the outdoor banquet hall to see if the young girl had returned. As he was passing by the fire exit, he suddenly heard someone say, That little bitch is done for today. Hans pushed open the fire exit door and saw a few men coming up. One of them even kicked a high heel that was lying on the stairs to the side. That high heel was the one Molly was wearing tonight. Hans immediately grabbed one of them by the collar and demanded, "Where's Molly?" The other two, who hadn't been grabbed, turned around and saw that it was Hans. They were scared shitless and ran down the stairs.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.